All right, we're recording. Okay, so it's 6:30, so let's call this to order. This is the 25th of January, Carmel Mountain Ranch, Sabre Springs Community Council's Golf Course Subcommittee. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by something else. Okay, so Kurt, I'm admitting. So I am Eric Edelman. I'm the de facto subcommittee chairperson. And if you're on the subcommittee, go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself.
And I'll start. I'm John Schroeder. I'm a resident of Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Kurt?
Hey, my on here.
Kurt? Kurt Carlson, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there you are. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Kurt Carlson, homeowner.
Thank you. An apparent Seahawks fan. Okay. Seattle's a nice town. Who else do I have in here? Dan Thompson, you're here. John Chu. If you're on the subcommittee, go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself. All right, well, all right, I'm not, I guess I'm gonna have to go through the list of people. Okay, John Schroeder, you're here, right?
I'm here.
Okay, good. John Chu?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Dan Thompson, we saw he's here, although I don't think he's on the subcommittee. That's okay. Or maybe he is, I don't remember. All right, so we have 19 participants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, yeah, we've got a quorum of our subcommittee here. So where's everyone at? Let's talk about where we're at with our responses. I'm gonna ask John Chu to let us know what he sees on his master sheet there.
I got comments from Larry. Actually, I've not checked the sheets in the last few minutes, but Michelle gave some comments. I have comments. Let me see here. And that's it so far.
Yeah, you got comments from me.
Kurt, I did get your comments, replied back. I haven't figured a way to put it into the sheet yet. I think, can I, actually, before we go down that road, I think we've talked a little bit about it, but I encourage anyone that hasn't reviewed or hasn't really been familiar with the process to review the comments from the Juniper CIR. Specifically, the first section that responds with Delano Associates letter that they wrote, which is they were representing, I'm not sure who exactly they're representing, but they have a lot of detailed comments about the EIR starting on page 44 of the PDF.
John, do you think it would be helpful to share that screen with the group so they can see what the comments and responses look like?
Yep, sure. I only want to go over a few points, so I think
I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share away.
So if you're looking at my screen here, I have the PDF open, and you'll see that they were representing the PQ Northeast Action Group. So that was the community group that was, I guess, akin to Troy's group on the other side of the freeway.
Okay.
And they hired the law firm to go do some analysis and write comments back. And the city, or the city did the review of that EIR, and there's a multi-page document. And the first thing you'll see is they have a big section that just does introduction. And the city's first comment is it's all general. It doesn't address the adequacy or accuracy of the EIR, so no further response is required. So you can immediately see that any comment that does not address adequacy or accuracy is essentially just a talking point. There's no real response required from the city. So I did skim through all the sections of the high level, and they address traffic, land use, noise, air quality, hazards, hazardous materials, public facilities and services, greenhouse gas, water, and alternatives. So if you go through, I think the next 10 pages, you'll see how they responded. Every single bullet point is that they responded to, and you'll see their responses on the right side. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but if you skim through this, they'll say that they looked at it, they addressed it, or they might have noted it and made some minor updates, but it didn't necessarily drive a real large change to the EIR. Now,
is there anything, any comment that did?
I skimmed it. I didn't think so.
Okay.
So they said traffic, but they said like, oh, the freeway traffic, but if it's under a certain number of vehicles, it doesn't trigger something that Caltrans to do. So the city doesn't necessarily look at 5615 because that's outside their jurisdiction. So the other piece I saw in here that was kind of interesting was at the very end that they say that because all these things was narrowly defined and it wasn't done properly, they requested the whole draft EIR to be recirculated, to be updated, recirculated. So that's probably the extent of what you can ask the EIR to do. So I think, you know, we as a community group find that this EIR has significant sections that should be readdressed. That is the final comment that you respond back in the EIR.
And so then the city says.
So I'll go to that response because they basically say no. The comments are either incorrect or addressed in the draft or final. No need to revise or recirculate draft EIR.
Yeah. So, I mean, our response to our EIR is not likely to move any mountains. We're just making them respond to the comments, right? I mean, this is not.
Well, I think, you know, either we write comments and say reject these comments, or we say we think this is adequate and it requires a recirculation of the draft EIR. Anything beyond that is they're not going to probably look at.
Yeah, I mean, just because, you know, this is another project, and I understand that, and I think John's got a good point about, you know, they're the professionals. We don't have the facts. You know, we're pretty much, I don't know, you know, we have our own gifts in life, which isn't reviewing EIRs. But at the same time, we need to question everything. We can't just accept this on the mere fact that, you know, other EIRs they just walked all over them and then just continued their merry way. We have to respond in some form or fashion. We need to, you know, time is money to them, and anything we can cost them money.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting we don't respond. And that's where I want to, Alan, are you there?
Yeah,
So,
yes, I'm here.
I mean, I see your comment in the chat. It's a mistake to accept the city's response to a draft EIR comment as correct. But once we respond and they comment, I mean, what then?
Well, then it's up to somebody, if they choose to do so, to sue for an inadequate EIR.
Well, who here is?
They put out a draft EIR. Somebody does a comment. The city responds to that. So the question is, was the whole thing an adequate EIR?
Right, but I mean, who here is suggesting that we accept?
If you ask a governmental entity if they made a mistake, they're going to say no.
Right, but I'm asking you,
Yeah.
who here is suggesting that we just accept their comments as correct? I'm not following your comment.
It sounded to me like that was what was John was saying.
Well, I don't think he's saying that
We
we're,
say this, the city says that, it's over.
So the process is right. So we.
well, it is the process though. He's correct in that this is the process. And
So
we're
the-
looking at an EIR that's happening right across the street from us. And that's what they're saying. So we're
No,
you know,
I
we're
think
not saying that we're accepting it's correct. We're just saying this is the process and this is what we're doing and this is what we're likely to see in response. Is that correct, John?
That's what I'm saying, right? So
Right.
we can't say that this ER should stop, right? That's just not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to look at all the comments, they'll respond to it, and they'll say, well, is it inadequate or not? If it's inadequate, then they'll have to do another draft, right?
Right,
Adequate, they'll say, well, just state everything in the final.
right.
Then if the
Obviously, we're
final
going
is
to
not-
respond to this. It's not, I'm having John share that so people can see what the city is likely to do in response, not to discourage us from responding.
Right, so, you know, if you write a comment in here that has nothing to do with adequacy or accuracy, you can include it. It's just not likely to get response on it.
Right,
So, you know, that's where I think we can be, as a community group, be a little bit more specific about what we're going to respond to. But if you're an individual, I feel you have a lot more free play about what you want to write, right? So as a community group, we should try to stick to these guidelines with accuracy and adequacy. And we might include some things. Obviously, it's something that the group will have to discuss about whether they're not directly tied to those two areas.
right. Okay, so yeah, no one is suggesting that we don't respond. No one is suggesting that we're laying down and accepting anything. I'm just trying to throw a dose of realism here. Troy, are you had something to say?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So Stefan Haight is the head of the PQ group, and he and I have been corresponding for some time, kind of sharing
When you say
what's going on.
PQ group, which PQ group are you referring to?
This group that that John just referenced. That's a
So
part
they're
of
so
this.
they're like the Penasquitos equivalent of CMR United.
Right. So
Okay, thank you.
it's a little different setup, but yeah. So they're a separate organization, separate from the planning group, separate from the HOA. And they actually hired Mr. Delano, who eventually sued the city on this EIR. So the process, John is 100% correct. Yep. I mean, the city's essentially going to say, oh, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. But what it does is it opens up the possibility for litigation. And it's my understanding that that there are even opportunities for litigation on a contingency basis. So that's something I wasn't aware of until I was speaking with some of the folks at the Sierra Club. But yeah, that's kind of the process. It's very important that that we have. I mean, there's going to be letters like Delano's probably coming from the HOA. There's already a letter that's been submitted from the Sierra Club. These are professionally written. These are people that know what they're doing, and we can try to model some of those things. But it does need to be fact specific, and then the city's going to deny it. But that does then create the opportunity, if it does pass, for other people to suggest that it needs to be redrafted. I find it highly unlikely that, based upon our comments, anybody's going to redraft an EIR. So we just should go in with that expectation.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's been my point from the beginning. Exactly. I mean, I really think that the board and CMR United are on the same page. Obviously, we have different functions within the community and different things that we can and can't do. Ultimately, we can't get involved in any litigation. You guys can, and hopefully our response will help with that if it becomes necessary. But anyway, somebody else is waiting to get in. All right, so um, so John, you have we're still missing comments from a lot of folks, and we've been hearing. I've heard from a couple, two of our members today, not subcommittee members, but two board members have sort of said, you know, I don't have time or whatever, so we may have to reallocate some of those topics to other people.
Well, I think, you know, we don't need them till early next week. It's actually better if people spend a little more time trying to really clarify their remarks, their comments, and try to tie it to something directly. You know, if you can say, oh, our community plan says this, or the city's requirement is this, it lends a little more strength to your response.
Right.
And John, I'll upload my comments to your spreadsheet in the morning. I just wanted to check one more thing and then I'll do that.
Sure, no problem. I think, you know, we said we'll get back together next week, right, Eric? Is that?
Yeah, we'll have to, let me look at the calendar here. I mean, this is tonight. I really just wanted to check in with everybody and find out, you know, one, is anybody, you know, struggling and need some advice? Does anybody want to talk about anything in the open forum here that we can't necessarily talk about offline? You know, just anything like that. So if you, I don't have, I haven't hit mute all yet, so people should be able to mute and unmute at will. And, you know, we're a pretty civil group. So if anybody has any questions or comments about what they're specifically working on or anything they see in the report that somebody else should work on, go ahead and do that while I look at the calendar here and figure out.
This is Harold. Could I get, maybe I could get John to unshare his desk?
Oh yeah, go ahead and stop sharing, John. Thank you.
So I wrote something in the chat there, but basically, Troy sort of assigned me, and I took it anyway, the updating his list. And so I spent most of the day reformatting it so that everything is in the order that the EIR is. And I added some comments about, you know, how to get the documents down and stuff like that. But what I'm in looking through all the issues that Kurt and Alan and Karen in particular have brought up, we're able to, I remember I discussed this yesterday when we were having a discussion with John about things you can object to. And I'm definitely coming to the conclusion that, yeah, we have to, we can challenge just the statements they make. I mean, they say, oh, you know, this plan will tie these villages to get, you know, the various communities together in a tightly knit village. And Karen went and realized, and she looked up the city, I guess she looked up the actual city plan, general plan document on the city of villages, and they changed the wording just a little bit. They didn't include the word walkable village. And so they're claiming that this is compliant with the city of villages plan, but it's nothing like that because it's not walkable and because of the distances. So taking that, then all the work that I had done in the past with mapping the elevations and the distances, we can insert that as an appendix. And I don't see any reason why we can't use the same arguments in both documents. But definitely, it's like read through the thing, and it's like there's a number of things. When I read their introductions in the design guidelines, every time I'd read it, my blood would boil because they're just so flagrantly misleading. So this is a place where if it's in there, we can challenge it. Like they say at one point, they said, oh, there's no impact from the fact that the buildings are 4 stories and the houses are 2 because of the grading variations. But that's wrong because most of the building pads have the same pad level as the surrounding houses because they're doing all this cut and fill. And so a 4-story house is still going to be a 4-story building. And then they point out at the bottom, well, if it's in a TPA area, that visual or aesthetic impacts are not considered. But so I pointed out, okay, well, there's other things too that have to do with having a 4-story building. I mean, aesthetics really are whether you like something or not. It doesn't actually say visual impacts, which is okay, it blocks the sun. But the other thing is that they're throwing all this concrete and solid material in the middle of what used to be grass and plants. So we now have these heat sinks that are going to raise our temperatures and our cooling bills. And they're also the 4-story apartments at the crown of the hill. They're going to block the wind, change the wind patterns. And all these buildings, even in the ones behind on hole number 1 behind Jim across the street from me, they're going to change. They're going to disrupt the wind patterns so that it's going to feel different. There are many more impacts than just the visual from the fact that they're huge buildings.
Yep, I think that's good, Harold. That lends to the inadequacy of the report.
Yeah.
So Harold, you're working on helping to format the CMR United response, essentially.
Today I am.
Okay.
Tomorrow, who knows? I'm
you
hoping to help out on the other one too.
Good. Thank you, John. Chu. Are you and Harold? You have Harold's contact info and all that good stuff.
Probably, yeah, I do.
I'm copied on emails. Yeah.
He hasn't sent me anything in particular. I've not asked.
Okay.
I asked.
Yeah.
Another thread. I don't remember who exactly was on it.
Right.
If they have comments, you can send to me.
Because I mean, I do think it's okay to have the similar content running through all of these, as long as we aren't saying the same things.
Yeah, I can rewrite it from scratch pretty easy.
Okay. Well, John,
excuse me for a moment, Eric. I just wanted to thank Harold for his amazing work, and Alan and Karen and others who, we've been pouring through, thousands of pages of documents to create, what I refer to as a bullet point document of issues. And I think John is asking for a lot of those same things. We want to share our document with you. We're going to go public with this. We hope tomorrow. I'm just waiting to get it back from Harold. I've created a correspondence. We'll post that on CMR United. We'll also post that on Nextdoor. And with that, we will include some other resources like the community plan. And we will share a sample of the Sierra Club letter. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but it's an excellent letter. It's 20 pages long, and it provides for a good model. Now, we can't just copy it because that won't work. So we have to write in our own words. And what I'm encouraging people to do is not so much to write lengthy commentary. I mean, the organizations perhaps need to do a little bit more in depth, but individuals, it's been made very clear to me, it's both quality and content. Meaning, if you send in 50 letters, it's a big difference between 3 letters or 4 letters. So everybody needs to write a letter that we can get to write a letter. And, sometimes this can be a little overwhelming. I think it's overwhelming for all of us because, as Kurt said, we aren't particularly adept at responding to EIRs. But hopefully with this document that Harold has been working on, helping us with, and getting it organized, you could take 1 or 2 things that you're passionate about and write about them in a meaningful way. And, if we get 50, 100 of these things in there, it's going to really make a difference. So we're happy to share that. That'll be out there for the public, and certainly, Harold, feel free to share that with Eric or John or whoever. It's we have no pride of authorship. We're just trying to work together to identify the issues, to help it make it easy for people to respond without having to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to do this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree with all of that, and I did share the Sierra Club letter with my full board, and look forward to seeing what you guys are doing, because I think that'll help us. A lot of us have gotten a good start on things, and I think seeing what you guys are putting together will definitely help us. And of course, I echo everything you said about the community members that are helping. We all appreciate it, and we all appreciate the ability to work together on it. And if I seem cranky tonight, it's probably because I am, but I'll work to push that aside. I've got a home. Let's just say that homeschool is challenging.
Can imagine.
Yeah, well, my 14-year-old does just fine. He's doing great. It's the 5th grader that it's two grown adults with college educations can't seem to get a 5th grader to do a simple fraction reduction. But anyway, all right. So is anybody else from the CMR community group have any comments, struggling with anything, need guidance, assistance, comments, anything? So
I too just want to thank all of you who have done so much work and detail, and I am going to write a letter, and I'm taking my guidance from Harold, because he's seems to well, not only is he right across the street, but he really has dug into this thing. I have not read the 700 pages, but I've read a lot of summaries. I did read the Sierra Club thing, and I think I have enough ammunition to write a good letter. So I'll commit to that. And beyond that, if I can help any of you in any way, I'm happy to. And I really, really appreciate all of everybody on this call's effort, John and Eric and Alan and Troy and Karen, and just so many people, that Kurt, that have all worked so hard, for so long on this damn thing. So I do think we still have a good shot, and I'm kind of re-energized in that regard, and I think we just gotta keep moving forward. So thanks, Eric, for setting it up.
Oh, you're welcome. I don't know. I gotta be honest. I mean, at this point in the process, I feel like I'm flailing a little bit. Just because, like Kurt said, and like the rest of us has said, this is all very, very foreign, and I'm generally a pretty fast learner, but it's really, challenging to get up to speed on something like this, and that's why I'm going to be eternally grateful to people like Harold and others who are doing so much work ahead of ours that are going to make our job a lot easier. Because I know in the end that we're going to coalesce a response together from the community group that's going to, make sense and look good, and it'll augment and enhance everybody else's, and vice versa. So I look at the number of people, because they list everybody on that Juniper's EIR that submitted or responded, and it's a long list. So regardless of what happens, there's going to be a long list of people, who contributed, and they're not going to be able to just ignore it. And I agree. I don't see this as over by any stretch. I just think we're kind of teeing up what comes after the city responds to the EIR, or the draft comments, which, I mean, it's probably going to be months, right? We're going to submit this, and then it's going to be 7, 8, 9 months before we get the responses back from the city. Because that's about how long it took on the Junipers, right?
Yeah, and it's a much less complicated project, relatively.
Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Eric,
Yes.
this is Claudia Morn. I put a comment or a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
But is it appropriate for us to just send also emails to those that we supported, or to specific members of the supervisory board or the council that are going to be seeing these things eventually, that we want them to know that this is out and that we're addressing it?
Well, I know that
That's good.
I know that Marnie, our city council person, knows what we're up to because her rep was here and knows that we're working on this. As far as the planning commission goes, I'm sure we could. I know they're expecting everybody to respond. I don't know that we need to alert them that we are going to, but
Excuse me, Eric, you can't not respond directly to the planning commissioners. That's not sort of part of the things that we're supposed to be doing. That's my understanding. They're separate, and we have a contact, and that information presumably will get to the planning commissioners, but they are a decision-making body, and we're not allowed to contact them. I can share with you relative to the city council people, and Claudia, it may be you're asking about county board of supervisors. That's perfectly fine, and I would encourage that.
Yes,
I know
I'm
that
just
the
thinking
Sierra Club letter made its way to Marnie's office, and Jack responded to that because I was copied on that. So absolutely, yeah, copy those elected officials. At some point when this all gets a little further down the road, we got to go meet with every city council person. I've already met with our rep. I've also met with the rep for our county board of supervisors person, and we'll ultimately want to meet with every single city council person on this issue, because they ultimately will make the decision on yay or nay.
Yeah, I've met with the mayor's rep, and I've met with our city council person's rep, and the Tara Lawson Reamer. She's the new county supervisor, right?
Yeah, Evelyn is her.
Right.
her
Yeah, I
assistant,
met with her. So I mean, all three of those people, all three of those elected officials know, if they've talked to you, Troy, they've talked to me, they've talked to whoever else they've talked to in the community, and I think they've gotten largely the same feedback from all of us. So I don't think.
But great to copy them on these letters, right?
Of course,
so that
yeah.
they know that. And I will say, for those of you who are aware, on our county board of supervisor, I spoke with Evelyn, and I can provide some information. This is late information, but I signed on. They have a very active climate action plan, and you can sign on to support their climate action plan, which I think is a really good one. That's just my personal opinion. But a lot of what we're talking about is environmental. And if we could support them, I feel confident that they will support us in our opposition to damaging our environment through this project. They will also be hosting a meeting, and I can provide people, if they're interested, with the details on the meeting. And it's a Zoom meeting, and they're going to have a county board of supervisors. They're going to roll out this climate action plan. And the county board of supervisors is really trying to lead the way, and as it relates to environmentally friendly things to do, and trying to save our world and our planet. And I for one will be supporting that, and I think that can tie in greatly. They've said, look, Troy, we'd be happy to contact city council members if that's appropriate thing to do. We're just kind of walking through what we can do to help prevent damage to our environment. And these types of drastic infill projects are really problematic in the big picture of things.
Well, it's really at odds with, the climate action plan from the city and the county and the state ostensibly. It's really at odds with the notion of doing all of what they're doing with high density infill, right? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's almost as if somebody's paying them off, right?
Well, and that's, for the benefit of everybody, I've been on my platform on building in the retail areas and the office spaces, and you can see now how that kind of ties in, not necessarily in response to an EIR, but in response to a lot of what Alan talks about, which is, some things are legal, but they're not politically acceptable. And I think we're in one of those areas. Well, maybe, according to the city, and if you listen to Jonathan, this thing's all ready to go. It's buttoned up. It's going to go to the planning commission next month, and then it's going to go to the city council the next month, and they're going to approve it, and it's all done. But we don't believe that is the case, but we need to arm ourselves and be prepared that if we don't do anything, that may be the reality.
Right.
I have one quick comment, Eric.
Yeah,
What Troy just mentioned about the mixed use building in the shopping centers. I actually found a couple of places to squirt that into the document where, as an alternative that wasn't addressed, that's a feasible and appropriate alternative project that should have been looked at, and that's not in there. And then the other thing is whether this is an appropriate land use. That this is the village should be built over the retail so that everything's walkable, and so that's the back on another area. But yeah, it's like I threw it in there a couple of places.
yeah. I mean, and that's an idea that, I mean, it's an amazing concept and a phenomenal idea that you know, seems to make way too much sense. I guess my only comment about that is some of that property would have to be available to developers per the owners putting it on the market or something. No?
Yeah, I've
Maybe-
actually talked to owners of the Home Depot Mall and the Ralph's Mall.
Yeah,
and,
Sudbury.
we've had a discussion about putting, you know, retail above, specifically the Home Depot, and I'm not sure, you know, whether they're wanting to do that or not, but they were considering it, and they wanted
they
to see
were.
how open I was to it. And, you know, I was open to it if it didn't mean doing the golf course and apartments on Home Depot.
Right, right.
And I also had a lengthy conversation with Jack Hoprich, who's Marnie's rep, about, and I asked him specifically, I said, so, what would these developers have to do to build above the shopping mall? And the interesting thing is that they'd have to do the same thing we're going through here. And what I pointed out to him is that what you as lawmakers should be doing is making that process much simpler, so you don't have to go through all the hoops. You get a fast track to build over the existing infrastructure, and that's the solution to this type of a dilemma. And we're not there yet, but they're all talking about, listening, and they're going, this really makes a lot of sense. And I know that others have been talking a lot about the office space and COVID, and it all does make sense. So if we can slow this thing down, we get a little momentum with the city council, the county board of supervisors. I mean, they're really saying that San Diego wants to lead the way and be a model for the rest of the country on how to do this. And we're just missing this one piece. So I mean, these are big picture items, and but when you say things that make sense, that really make sense, and people look at it, then they all of a sudden go, I'm not sure why we're not doing that.
Yeah, Troy, and I completely agree with you. I mean, if you look at what's happening in Kearney Mesa, right, they're doing a community plan update before any real project is going ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can rezone it for multi-use well ahead of any actual sale of property.
And that's where it should be done, John, right? That's good leadership by the city. And I really think we have a city council now that has predominantly a group of people that want to work together. They're largely the same party, and yeah, we can use these models. Almost all new developments now, almost all of them in the urban core, are all mixed use, right? So you have the shops down below, and you got the apartments and condos or whatever up above, and these shopping centers need to be reimagined in the suburbs.
Yep, and then you can include affordable housing and affordable for sale deed restricted in there.
Absolutely. I mean, because you don't need a parking spot, so that makes it much cheaper to build. All the infrastructure is already there, the plumbing, the sewers, everything. I mean, you really could do it affordably. And wouldn't that be just wonderful if we could build in Carmel Mountain affordable housing? I mean, true affordable housing that teachers could buy, firefighters. That's a wonderful goal. It really is. And that's the problem with this project. It will not be affordable. I mean, they'll have their token few, and it'll almost all be rental. So they're not serious about solving the problem. This is about them making lots and lots of money. And there's nothing wrong with making money, but at the end of the day, we could do better than this. San Diego could do much better.
What if, because the community planning group can drive, if we organize it, we could drive a community plan update. I don't know if we can, obviously they've got us busy chasing our tail on this stuff, but if we could somehow sneak in a community plan update before this project is approved. Does that make any sense?
Makes sense, but I don't think we can get it done.
It's just too big an undertaking, or?
Yeah, well, the community plan, when I asked, a year ago at one of the public meetings, their response was something along the lines of, well, you guys are pretty far down on the list. We're doing like 2 a year.
Oh, so it has
They're going through the whole city and updating them all to,
We do
know.
have a little change in climate, Harold, and that is that we now have a city councilwoman who's, at least been to one of our meetings. We have,
Yeah.
I mean, if she were to get behind that, and, so we've been really busy playing defense, but I think, we need to play a little offense too, and we should be having those conversations. I've asked for a meeting with Marnie. Eric, I'd be happy to invite you along to that meeting, and it's not going to be for 2 or 3 weeks, but because she's busy creating her staff and so forth, or you can ask for your own meeting. But I mean, the whole point of this would be to say, let's really just take a step back, because they're kind of saying to me, at least Jack is, that, we wish we were here a little sooner, and we, it's kind of the 9th hour, 11th hour, whatever. I don't know what hour it is, but what I'm saying to them is, I don't think we're as far down the road as you think we are. Because I think there is going to be community opposition. I think that there likely will be a need to redraft this EIR, because it's got major flaws, and it is a controversial project. And I think that next 9 months, if we're fortunate enough to get that, gives us an opportunity to start playing some offense. And I really feel that Marnie and Tara Lawson-Rammer is are ready to go to help us.
This is the meeting. I don't know. I didn't really know how to do it, but
hang on, guys. I gotta.
Well, I guess the one thing that I hear you saying is that this is really a way to try to delay the trails project, because if just say for the case of it worked, then they would say, okay, wait a minute, we're going to slow down and we're going to change our housing makeup styles at the trails project, because the city is now saying that they can see a way to do the denser housing and apartments down where they should belong. And I think whatever we write up needs to have something like that. That really needs to be a strong to say that we're in favor of delaying this, because we feel like this rush to increase density and meet all the housing permits is really premature, and it's going to be ultimately permanently damaging communities and their culture and their way of life. And this is not the way to do planning and design and building. This really needs to be done a little more wholesomely, and not by one freaking owner that affecting all the 12, 13,000 people who live in our community.
Yeah. See, the thing is, Kurt, those are wonderful comments, and they're all true, but those are more political comments today than they are responding to the EIR. So we need to keep our focus very tight here. Focus on responding to the EIR and the EIR issues. I know that you in the chat asked me, can I get in touch with the Audubon people? I've already talked to the Audubon people, and we're going to circle back around with them. Larry's going to help me with that, Larry Fontaine. And I've had my hands full. I've literally, I have 2 full-time jobs right now, and I literally have working 12, sometimes 16-hour days. And if I don't respond to you, know that I'm here. I'm just, I can't even take a chance to look up. But this is the time to do it. We'll get through this EIR thing. We'll have a chance to regroup and do some of these things that you're talking about, Kurt, because you're so right. I mean, you're in the building, planning, construction of beautiful properties, and it can be done so much better than what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think, the fact that the community plan hasn't been updated in 30 years would be enough. Well, you would hope that would be enough of a reason to stop and do that first, but obviously that's not how the city's trying to do it.
Maybe it's talking to a developer, Sudbury, I think that owns the properties over there, right? Plaza and where the theater is. I mean, those guys are the ones that have the donations to the political powers that be. And, trying to find out from them as to what are their plans in terms of development. If we kind of had an inside take on what, those stores are all closing up. The businesses have, because of COVID and other reasons. But I mean, it's going to be hard to find businesses coming back. But if there's a way to make the developers feel like they're going to make a little bit more money if they go this direction, I mean, that's a no-brainer for them to bite on that. But,
Yeah, I think, if you looked at the retail side in particular, and I haven't talked to those folks because I'm not sure who the owner is, but I have talked to the owner of the Home Depot Center and the Ralph Center, the principal founder of the business. And at this stage, they don't want to redevelop because they're, as long as Home Depot's paying them rent. But if Home Depot to walk out of there, and not extend their lease, then they become very motivated. And it's a lot of work and, but I think that you're right, that it would be good to talk to the people that own that retail center. And I think it's multiple people, multiple companies, because that's not, it's kind of one big long strip of retail, but it's multiple properties.
So as it pertains to the planning group's EIR response, I would say that it seems like we're progressing, and we want to have something to basically we want to have something for the board to vote on a week from Wednesday. So it would probably make sense for us to reconvene 1 week from tonight and have a rough draft kind of ready to look at. John, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, sure. I said Tuesday, but Monday's fine.
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, we could do it Tuesday night too. I just trying to give us a little more.
Monday's fine.
Okay.
Make things by Monday.
All right. I don't want to cut a meeting short. If anybody has any other contribution toward the EIR response from the planning group, I mean, all of this is phenomenal conversation, and hearing Troy talk, hearing Kurt, hearing Harold, Alan, Karen, hearing everybody talk definitely gives me hope and gives me energy to push, to push potentially. I think talking to the city council person about a community plan update might be a really good idea. At this point, it's, I guess, something that might have been better a year ago or 18 months ago or whatever, but that just kind of popped into my head. It's like, why aren't we updating our community plan to reflect more of what everybody's talking about? And I've reached out myself to the YIMBY people, because I want to talk to them about this deed restricted affordable housing and why they're not, arguing for that, or, I'm trying to, they haven't responded to me. I think they probably won't, but if we could get more buy-in on our vision of Carmel Mountain Ranch, then I think we might have more traction and more of a chance to stop this thing or reduce it or whatever. And the voice in my head keeps telling me this has probably been tried before, others have tried and failed, so why bother? But I think, I don't know, I can't help but then listen to everybody and say, maybe we are unique enough that we can make a change here.
Yes, keep going, Eric. Don't stop.
No, I'm not. It's very discouraging when you look at, the response to the junipers thing. It's just like, they're just, the city is just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. And, you know, the project isn't going to stop, but that doesn't mean that, you know, the Sierra Club and others aren't teeing themselves up for action that could further delay or reduce or whatever with this project. And if there's some way on God's green earth that we could get a community plan update done that would, again, encompass this vision that we're all kind of talking about, I think that would be a phenomenal thing for us.
Yeah, I think that any chance we get, in terms of what, like Troy was talking about too, is any chance we get to throw out that, number one, we're looking for the mixed use applications, and number two, that we're looking for some increased, affordable, for purchase and lower density on the build. So it's like, if people agree that we're willing to change for, you know, instead of having 4-story buildings, we're, you know, we'd rather have 2-story buildings and maybe spaced out a little bit too. I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff they're talking about how much open space we're saving is they're keying to that one person on the board of planners on the planning commission that said, you know, I don't want you to see this whole thing chewed up, you know, with houses all over it. So they're going, oh, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build tall buildings because that's what's the big thing this week. But yeah, I think that I thought that Mark, I think his name was Mark Prince.
Mike Prince.
Mike Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the one that I brought up you know, a year ago or more, brought up that thing about the plan, and he was the one that responded that. But he's the actual in the planning
Yes.
end of things.
Yeah, he's the planner who's in charge of our community
Yeah.
plan amendment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was why, because I copied him on my list. He seemed more receptive to actual thought as opposed to just trying to crank it through.
He's a good guy. I mean, he obviously we know who he works for, but he's a thoughtful person, and
Yeah.
you know, is probably more prone to doing the right thing than some. So
Right.
I don't know, folks, if there's nothing else, I guess we go back to our corners and keep working. Does anybody have any reason we should continue this now, or are we?
No, I think Eric wants to go off and be a teacher again.
I want to go to sleep is what I want to do. No, I'm kidding. I'm just, you know, I could sit here all night. I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Okay. Kurt, I saw Kurt left and came back. I think he was having
My computer died.
internet. Okay. Internet problems. And I mean, I know that our people are cranking stuff out. So, I mean, does anybody have any objection to calling it a night, or? Okay. All right. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to notice another meeting for a week from tonight. And then I'm going to notice a special meeting of the CMRSSCC for Wednesday the 3rd, so we can vote on the response to send. And then I think that's probably the best thing to do. But if anybody feels like we need to meet in between now and Monday, I guess let me know. If we're going to do a public meeting like this, we got to notice 72 hours ahead. If we're going to do a quick call without a quorum, wink wink, then we can do that too in maybe smaller pods or something. But I think the email communication that is going on between board members and stuff it's just necessary. I mean, obviously we're concerned about the Brown Act, but let's not be overly concerned about that right now. I don't think we're forming any new collective concurrences by discussing what we're writing here. So with that, if there's no objection, I'll go ahead and adjourn for now.
Hey, bye, everybody.
All right, good night, folks. We'll see you in a week, and I'll get the agenda to the city. Thank you all.